if you want to improve your writing, you should read like a writer. This is good advice. This is something that I told you before. This is something that many writers say. But what does that actually mean? What does it mean to read like a writer? Today I'm going to show you how. I'm going to show you a very practical way you could read like a writer. And I'm going to do it by actually doing it. I took a paragraph from a book that I've recently read, this one, Linchpin by Seth Godin. Brilliant book. And I'm going to analyze a paragraph that's 8 sentences. Very short, very short. But I remember when I read this paragraph, I thought, wow, there are so many writing lessons here for the reader. If you look closely at what you read, you can find several lessons. And I've learned 7 lessons from this paragraph by analyzing this paragraph. And I'm going to show you the paragraph. I'm going to show you the lessons. I'm going to tell you what I learned. And then hopefully this is something that you can do when you are reading. All right, so let's start. This is the paragraph. I'm going to read it out. I'm sitting next to Zeke on the plane. Well, I'm sitting, but Zeke isn't. Zeke is too. He spends the entire flight standing, walking around, poking, smiling, asking, touching, responding, reacting, testing, and exploring. Is it possible that you were like Zeke? What happened? Somewhere along the way, we begged it out of you. And that's a shame, because what Zeke has, and what so many have lost, is exactly what we need. Okay, the meaning of the paragraph is, to me at least, is we've lost our curiosity. Okay? We are not as curious as we used to be. And this is a shame. This is what the paragraph means to me. But there are so many writing lessons. So here is the first one. Lesson number 1. Have a look at the first sentence. I'm sitting next to Zeke on the plane. 9 words. Very simple sentence. But it's a brilliant sentence to start a story. Why? Because you've got location and action and wonder. So location, the plane, action, sitting, and wonder. Who is Zeke? Because this name was not mentioned before in the book. When I was reading this book, Zeke, when I saw Zeke, it was the first time. Okay, so I thought, okay, who is Zeke? Good. Now, location and action. This is something that Matthew Dix, brilliant storyteller, brilliant writer, says you should have when starting a story, especially an oral story. I'll put the link in the show notes if you want to check out Matthew Dix's work. But if you have location and action, well, you're already there. I'm already on that plane. I don't need to know what kind of plane. I don't need any other extra information about what the plane looks like. I'm already there. I'm already sitting next to the author. I'm already watching. I'm already in the scene. It's fantastic because the story has started and we are already part of the story. Great, great. Then, we've got Zeke. Second sentence. Well, I'm sitting, but Zeke isn't. And I thought, okay, who is this Zeke? Who is this character? I want to know. This is fantastic because I want to read the next sentence now. I want to know who the hell is Zeke. And this is something that ideally my writing would, like, it's something that I want my writing to achieve, ideally. This is what I'm trying to say. I would love my readers to look forward to reading the next sentence. Because this is how you engage the reader. This is how you create tension. You create wonder in the mind of the reader. And I think this is great writing. This is when you read a book that, you know, we call them page turners. It's a page turner because you keep turning the page. You keep wanting to know what happens next. And this is achieved brilliantly, I think, in this paragraph. And then we've got Zeke is too. I thought, okay, so Zeke is a child. I thought it was a dog when I first read I'm sitting but Zeke isn't. So it's actually a kid, not a dog. Brilliant way to introduce a character, in my opinion. Lesson number 2. Have a look at the next sentence. He spends the entire flight standing, walking around, poking, smiling, asking, touching, responding, reacting, testing, and exploring. It's a long list. It's a long list of 10 verbs, all ending in ing, right? Now, I don't think this is just, it happens by chance. I think this was intentional, to have a long list of verbs, of 10 verbs, that they all end in ing. Why? I asked myself why, and I thought, well, this is a central sentence in building. It's essential in building the author's argument, because the author's argument here is that we've lost our curiosity. Okay, this is the meaning of the paragraph. By having that long list, we get to understand what being curious actually looks like. And this list tells us that. Okay, so we've got standing, walking around, poking, smiling, and the fact that we've got this ing sound, it's like, to me, it's like something that, it's like a hammer. You know, the author wants us to be hit by these sounds. 3 verbs won't be enough to achieve this continuous hammering sound, and because it's important in building the author's argument, it deserves more words. So we've got the content, which is what being curious looks like, and the form, the ing, the long list of verbs, all similar in form, well, identical in form. So this is the second lesson that I learned. The next 2 sentences. Is it possible that you were like Zeke? What happened? So these are 2 questions. Having 2 questions creates variety in this paragraph, because before we only had affirmative sentences. I'm sitting, Zeke isn't, so affirmative and negative. Now we've got 2 questions. They create variety, they add variety to the structure of the paragraph. Most importantly, we've got questions that the author is asking us. And this means that the author is not talking to himself. The author, Seth Godin, is there talking to us. He's asking you a question, the reader. He's asking you what you think about this. It invites you to reflect. It invites you to think with him. Well, this is great writing, because the writing is not just for the author. The writing, anything you publish, anything you put on paper and you put it out there into the world, is not for yourself. It might be for yourself, but it's most of all, it's for the reader, for us, for you. This is why Seth Godin wrote this book. This is why Stephen King writes books. This is why J.K. Rowling. I always use the same example. Sorry, but the writing of a writer is not for the writer. This is the lesson, and I like to think that great writing is a seamless, silent dialogue between 2 minds, that of the person who writes and that of the person who reads. So it's connection. It's about connecting minds. Lesson number 4. Have a look at this sentence. Somewhere along the way, we begged it out of you, And that's a shame, because what Zeke has and what so many have lost is exactly what we need. Well, this is the core message. This is why Seth Godin wrote about the plane, wrote about Zeke. This is why we've got the long list of verbs. This is the most important information, right? It's the core message of the paragraph. And I thought, why do we have this at the end of the paragraph, not at the beginning? If this is important, shouldn't it be the first thing on the list? Not on the list, but of the paragraph? Shouldn't it come first? So I did some editing, and I put this information at the beginning of the paragraph. And this is the new paragraph. Somewhere along the way, you lost your curiosity. Once I was sitting next to Zeke on the plane. Well, I was sitting, but Zeke wasn't. Zeke was too. He spent the entire flight standing, walking around, poking, smiling, asking, touching, responding, reacting, testing, and exploring. Is it possible that you were like Zeke? What happened? What Zeke has, and what so many have lost, is exactly what we need. Well, it's different. It's different. So it's not as powerful as the original version. First of all, we don't have that surprise. So we don't have the same sort of engagement. If you start by saying, somewhere along the way you lost your curiosity. Okay, that's it. You've already said everything. But if you build a story, so like Seth Godin did in this paragraph, so you start with the character, with Zeke, with the long list of verbs, and then you say, okay, this is what I'm talking about. I'm telling you all this because this is my message that I'm trying to share with you, that I want you to reflect on. But by putting it at the beginning, it doesn't create the same sense of engagement, wonder. So you already know what the paragraph is about, and it's less impactful, at least to me. Maybe this sounds very good to you, but to me, reversing the order doesn't work. It doesn't work. So the lesson, I guess, is moral at the end. That's why stories have the moral of the story comes at the end. It doesn't come at the beginning. First you tell a story, and then, okay, you've got the moral of the story. Next lesson, lesson 5. Somewhere along the way, we begged it out of you. All right, when I read this, I thought, what does it in the sentence, what does it refer to? What is it? Seth Godin doesn't tell us. It doesn't say, we begged curiosity out of you. Because to me, it's curiosity. This is how I interpreted this paragraph. But to you, maybe it's something else. It might be something else, right? So by letting the reader decide to interpret what all this is all about, this to me is fascinating because it tells us that the author trusts the reader. So you don't need to say everything. You don't need to make everything explicit. In this case, it's kind of clear, like it's open to interpretation. In some other cases, it might be, you need to say things, otherwise the reader wouldn't understand what you're talking about. But in this case, we have enough information to draw our own conclusions. And the conclusion to me, as I said, is that we've lost our curiosity. So what's the lesson? Great writing lets the reader imagine, infer, hypothesize, and draw his or her own conclusions. At least to me. Lesson 6. Musicality. Have a look at this. If we replace every word in each sentence of this paragraph with an asterisk, this is what the 8 sentences in the paragraph look like. So there's variety here. There are long sentences, short sentences, very short sentences, and medium length sentences. This is a very important feature of good writing. Sentence variety, varying sentence length. This creates music. Imagine having only short sentences. So short, 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 short. You would sound like a robot. Not good. Because variety, good writing is also about music. This is why we should read out our writing before we publish it, because it's something that helps you understand if your paragraph, if your writing flows. And if it doesn't, you will notice by reading it aloud. It's a very powerful self-editing tool. And Seth Godin, in this paragraph, has that variety, and if you read it, it just flows. It flows because it's long, short, medium length, very short. Fantastic. Fantastic. I love this. Then, number 7, okay, and this to me is probably the most important of all. And that's why it's at the end. It's not at the beginning of the list of lessons here. This paragraph, basically, I'm sure that we've already heard this idea that we've lost our curiosity, that everyone is born an artist. I think Picasso said that we were all born artists, but then we lost our creativity, something like this. There's a famous quote by Picasso, if I'm not mistaken. So this is nothing new, really. We know this. I'm sure that you've heard this idea, this concept many times. So we don't need to come up with incredibly new and original ideas to produce great writing or to create writing that people want to read. This is not the point, because coming up with an incredibly new and original idea, I don't know about you, but I find it very hard. None of the ideas, I guess, on my YouTube channel here, in my articles, on my podcast, none of those ideas are incredibly new. It's not that I'm trying to revolutionize the way people write, but by adding my own perspective, by adding my own stories, by adding what I see in the world, that makes the writing, the idea, new. It makes it original. It makes it fresh. It makes it, it helps the reader see it from a different angle, see it like I see it. Okay, and this is you add a new perspective on the same idea. So I remember one of my colleagues said, she's a teacher of English, and she said, I read your book and I think I have so many stories to tell myself, because I wrote this book about how I learned English. And she said, she read the book and she said, well, I think I could write a similar book because I have so many stories to tell. And I thought, why are you not writing it? Well, because I don't think people would be interested in reading what I have to say. Wrong. This is absolutely something that any writer anyone should kick out of their minds, I believe, because as I said, by adding your own opinions and your own stories, well, suddenly you are contributing to the idea and to the view of this idea. Sorry, I'm now going off a tangent here probably, but this is to say that you don't need to be original. You don't need to have an interesting life, a very extraordinary life to write something. Sharing your opinion, sharing your stories, creating a new story is enough. Is enough to start writing, is enough to help you continue writing. When you're stuck for ideas, well, you're not really stuck for ideas for writing. You already have so many. It's just probably it's just that you think your idea is not special enough. And I suffer from this too. So it's not that I'm not immune to this. I think many writers believe in have this problem. They feel that they have to say something incredible or something that will blow people's minds, but no, actually not. This is a very simple paragraph. It's a paragraph that it explains what curiosity is through the eyes of Seth Godin sitting on a plane. That's all. So, end of the lessons. Conclusion. What's the conclusion here? There are so many writing lessons in everything you read. Ask yourself questions. This is something that I encourage you to do. It's something that I encourage myself to do. Ask yourself questions when you're reading. Stop reading for even a minute and have a look at that sentence you've just read. Why do you love it so much? Why do you hate it so much? Why doesn't it work? I hope the grammar is correct. Why 3 words and not 4 words? Why is there a question here? Why is there a long list? Have a look at this punctuation symbol. I would have never used it in this way. This is how I learned English, by the way. It's also how I learned how to speak English, by listening to what people were saying around me. So why he said that? I've never heard of that. What is it? Let me find out. So this, to me, is what it means to read like a writer. It's one way, at least, you can it's one way to read like a writer, by analyzing short excerpts, short paragraphs. Even one single sentence would be enough. But if you look closely, there's so much to learn, and to me this is fascinating. I don't know about you. I hope this is helpful. Thank you for watching. Let me know your comments. Let me know if you have any comments, any questions. Put them in there, in the subscription, in the click likes, share, and subscribe. Do all that, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for listening, and bye bye.